Do you think it's a poo or a pee?
I don't know, but
I think it's a pee. She's real still. I don't know. Yeah, that was a pee.
All right.
That was a pee. I know a pee when I see one.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that we can just kind of share the space together and like each do our own thing, you know?
Yeah, she can piss in a box.
Yeah, and we can
record
just
the podcast episode.
be here.
Oh, yeah.
Leia's got one of those covered litter boxes, so she really likes to she really likes to scratch at the
inside.
Inside.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Scratching at the walls.
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, Chelsea.
Hey, Victoria.
You know what I really need today?
What?
A breath of fresh movie.
Oh, perfect. Me too.
All right. Oh, she's pooping too.
Yeah, she's getting all the business done.
Oh, she really is.
That's a movie I like to see.
This is a podcast where you, Chelsea Pope, and me, Victoria Harley, watch a movie neither of us has ever seen, and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
A lot of this is about how sometimes the best part of seeing a movie is when you hit the pavement after it's over. And this week we actually went to go see a movie. What? In a theater.
I know.
We do that.
Oh, we did.
We did it.
For what it's worth, this was I don't want to say lightly attended show. Like there was an audience.
Yeah.
But it was gently attended.
It was gently attended.
I don't feel too bad.
Considering it was an opening weekend.
Yeah.
And a movie that was marketed as a horror movie on a Friday night in October.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get a good look at the crowd, but it wasn't like it was a bunch of hipsters or anything. I mean, it was definitely, we went to the Grove.
Yeah.
People want to know.
Yeah, I thought it was like an interesting crowd of people that were coming to see the movie, and yeah, it felt like a good kind of general audience.
Well, I mean, and I'm not judging it, but like, well, I guess I am, but a number of people came in late. Like not
there
super
were a lot
late.
of latecomers.
Yeah, and not like not so late that's like, you know, I mean, if someone had turned to me and be like, what I missed, I'd be like, nothing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, nothing I can explain quickly to you in a dark theater. There was a lot of really tense moments. There was some music, you know, like, I mean,
exactly.
It's like there were a lot of lambs. I felt tense.
So like, I will also say that's something I just remember this movie starting, and some people coming in late, like, and people were coming in late as I was getting out like a beginning of the movie anxious pee.
Yeah.
Like, because it was tense, but nothing had happened yet.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking something was about to happen.
So you're like, I have to do this now.
I just need it. I'm just gonna
totally
bite the bullet or whatever and just do it. And then as I was at going, there were like a group of people coming up.
Yeah.
Dang, like, we're on the razor's edge, you guys. Like something interesting's gonna happen soon.
Yeah,
and
get your seats.
But we should really preface by saying this is
okay. Yeah. So we went to see Lamb.
And
you should stop listening right now if you don't. I hate the phrase spoiler alert, but that's essentially what we're giving you right now.
Just the less you know, the better. Like, if you like, I've been seeing previews coming up in like my Twitter feed and some like memes and whatnot about it, and I already feel like that kind of took a little bit of the wind out of its sails for me.
This movie benefits from going in as cold as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
You will get so much more enjoyment out of it if you don't read any reviews, don't read a synopsis, was that a right word? Synopsis. Don't read a synopsis. Just buy a ticket and then just cover your ears, la 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 la, until you get to the theater.
Yeah.
Keep doing it because there's going to be a bunch of annoying before the previews.
Yeah.
I was just, before we get into it, I mean, it's not like I never go to the movies, but I usually go to these like frou-frou little places where the trailers are kitschy and fun and like, you know, I haven't been to like a big multiplex in a long time, and just you feel your brain cells dying as you're just waiting for this movie to start. Like,
it does go on for an extremely long time. I wish I had timed it because it was a
lot. I mean, I don't mind seeing a lot of trailers. Like, I'm like, it's part of the show. But I'm talking about the stuff before the trailers. Like, when I was growing up, it used to just be a word jumble.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be
but I will say there is a lot of like comedic gift giving that's happening like in the watching of the pre-show buffet of like this is just a wonderful selection of commercials, trailers, product placement, and trivia, and like just theater etiquette and theater safety, and then visit the concessions,
and really loud,
and then
like really loud.
Yeah, and it's
like louder than anything we saw after it.
Yeah. Oh, and then also too, I kept thinking the movie was about to start. Every time they did multiple check-ins with the AMC like thing,
and that whole thing with Nicole Kidman.
Oh, the Nicole Kidman thing was so much.
Like, it was like this whole, it's like
just remember you love going to the movies.
Yeah, like
I can't do it.
It's so important for us to be here. Like, it just felt like without saying anything about COVID, it was so about that. It was just like this,
she goes into the theater and it's empty, and I'm like, that'd be cool to have like a whole theater myself.
I mean, it was pretty easy to get one. It was like, you got $100. The theaters were so desperate. Remember, like that was. I mean, I never did it, but
dang.
I mean, I love an empty theater.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's actually. What are you showing?
Yeah.
Like, let's find the longest movie we can.
It's a vibe.
Anyway, I haven't been to the movies in a while at like one of these types of places. So just that experience was a little bit, and I know you go to a theater, we're with people make noise. And part of seeing like a movie that, again, was billed as horror, I don't always hate an audience reaction. It's nice to know what other people are thinking.
For sure.
But, I also am like often enraged on a good day. Anyone who's making like an absurd amount of noise, or just like there was a couple like a seat away from us that they weren't the worst. They weren't the worst. And I don't want to just make this about that, but they got their like fucking shopping bags because it's the Grove, and he just like kept knocking his legs into them. Like one time I get it, but like multiple times, move the fucking shopping bag. And then like he's got popcorn, and then he's like nestling it in the seat between us. Like I wanted to just take some because it was basically beside me.
Oh, that must have been so annoying. I didn't even realize how much.
I just had there was a lot of crinkling paper.
You were like so much closer to it. It's just like
I was your sound barrier.
Yeah, but it was definitely.
It was fine. I've experienced worse. I don't want to dwell on it.
Oh no, but it can be annoying. But like that's the thing too with like going to the movies is pros and cons to going back to.
Yeah. People suck. That's generally the point I'm making.
Yeah.
So Lamb.
Yeah.
Lamb.
Well.
This is a new film directed by Valdemar Johansson. And that's all I really got for you. Yeah, you got to do your own research this week.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh shit.
And again, spoiler alerts, turn around now.
Yeah, this is just like continue. Seriously.
Warning sign.
It's there were moments that I felt like could have been interesting discoveries or something that I just kind of like I feel like
let's talk
took out momentum.
Let's talk about that trailer and how you said it kind of ruined it a little bit.
Well, I guess just in the sense of now that I've seen the whole film and looking back on it, and like I don't want to say that this is not a good film, but I certainly couldn't help but go in with expectations, seeing it's the A24 logo and the associations of the movies that
they tend to produce
horror
good
movies, especially recently, that they've produced. And
totally,
this trailer had a quirky quality to it, but was simultaneously like extremely off-putting, especially when you see the lamb child. Mm-hmm. It's not just one small tease of it. It happens like at least a couple times you see it. Okay. And I feel like in a way it's sort of, I don't know. I wonder if it would have been cooler just to have not even known that there was even a lamb child at all. Just see that they're tending to sheep, and that they're also helping birth the animals, and then they see one, but you don't know what it is. That
was my experience because I deliberately avoided stuff because you brought this up, and it was like, okay, we've never gone to like a movie, like a new movie together at a theater. This is a whole different thing. So I was like, okay, well, I'm really gonna try to be fresh and like going clean or cold and all that. I really didn't know what was going on. They birthed the calf. Something happens. I thought that the Maria, one of the only, there's a cast of about 3 or 4 in this whole movie. It's very small. Maria, our sort of leading lady. I hate that phrase, leading lady. Maria, I thought she fucked up the birthing. I thought there was like a weird jolt, and I thought like, I don't know, like she crippled it or something. Like its legs didn't work because she carried, and he kind of looks at her in this way that's like, I know now kind of what was what was going on behind his eyes, but when I'm watching it that way, I'm like, oh, you need to take care of this, or we need to take, like, it kind of had this, I don't know. I thought it was just something went wrong in the birthing. It wasn't until a few scenes had gone by that I realized, oh, we've never seen anything below the neck. And then, there was that moment in the crib.
Yeah. Where
we get like that shadowy outline of what looks like more like a human type body getting up and then going back. And that made me feel really uneasy. As much as this lamb sheep child was like being treated like a gift and and because we come to learn that this couple has also they've clearly lost either through, it's not clear if it's miscarriage or later, but there's all this subtext of there's been a loss. They're a childless couple and they've tried. And it's like once you get that, it makes this like intense tension, and it's supposed to be, it's like a loving kind of parental bond you're seeing happen. But I always was kind of feeling like this child is danger, though. Mm-hmm. And that turned out to be true.
Yes.
So I don't know, not to like pat myself. I didn't know where it was going to go.
Yeah.
But like, I was always a little worried that this thing was not, that they were in danger because of this.
Yeah. You just didn't know what the thing was. It felt like, you were the whole time. It's just like, when is the axe going to fall on the big bad thing sort of thing.
And one of the very first scenes, we heard like the breathing.
Yeah.
And we saw the sheep all kind of, like the animals. Again, like this movie pays attention to animals in this way.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of people in the audience sort of chuckling, and it's not to say that none of it was amusing. These creatures are, it's funny once you slow an audience down to a pace of watching animals that they start to appreciate, like, oh, look how they're all reacting. And
yeah,
it was
there's like a lot of emotion. I was feeling a lot of emotion watching these animals.
Too.
Even the dog, the cat, they became very expressive.
Yeah, I mean,
to me, like
not since the cat in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night have I seen such good cat acting.
It's good cat acting, exactly, and in both movies, and
cat lives. We think.
Yeah.
The cat survived. The dog did
not.
I
think there's something about their presence. There is like an omniscient type of quality.
Yeah, they know. Well, and there is like an early scene where the sheep, the horses. It's horses, right? That are like running in the snow.
There's like little ponies.
There's
like a gathering
short
of
little
ponies.
And like, and you see them.
Never see those again.
No, but like, I think it's, again, like the animals are sensing things, like just in a way, like a dog might like sit up before an earthquake happens, or I think, and I think
they were like starting to go in one direction, and then they go in another. They
turn sharply and run off, and I think
I like that this movie is having us look at such close details. This is definitely a movie that makes you lean into like
absolutely
what's happening.
Oh yeah,
and like you are paying attention the whole time.
I felt I felt very tense.
Yeah,
and the tension's built with music and with lots of like you get that little bit of forebodingness. If you didn't have those scenes right before, I mean, this is like the law of montage, right? Like, it would look like an idyllic, kind of boring, but, sweet little life. I mean,
it's almost like if you just put different music underneath this, then suddenly this would feel very wholesome, and you could just treat this like it was like Anne of Green Gables or something.
It's because of the setup that we feel the concern. I did feel like a certain urban dweller's envy for just the earthiness of all of it, and it wasn't clear what season it was exactly, but there was kind of this constant light, it wasn't dark very often. The only darkness we really saw was in that like winter scene, which presumably is the like moment of impregnation, right? And then in the spring, then the spring lambs come, because we saw that one sheep like lying on her side, and like it was, I don't know. I mean, it's not totally important, but it was just, we saw, I think like,
it is important. I mean, I feel like, now it's just like rethinking all of that. This is definitely like, I do appreciate this movie. It has a lot to like.
Yeah. But I don't know if I did like it. Yeah. Because okay, so the reveal of the sheep child for me was very fulfilling, even though like I'm not trying to brag and like be like, oh, I saw it coming. I didn't right away. But when I did, some of that's because like, I don't know if you're familiar, there's a James Dickey poem called The Sheep Child. And it's literally like about a half child, half sheep, and and it is implied that it's because of like, right, some shepherd fucked a sheep and now there's this weird kind of creature. James Dickey also wrote Deliverance. So that kind of world. There's also, though, somewhat related but not related to that, there was a 2-headed calf born in Nebraska, and there's a poem about that one.
I've seen that one. That kind of made the rounds on Twitter somewhat couple times.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things that makes the rounds.
It's a very lovely poem. It's very like haunting and sad.
And I was thinking about that poem when the calf was born, and I didn't know what was, or not calf, but the lamb was born, and I didn't know what was wrong with it. Like I was thinking about that, and I happened to drive across country this summer, and I stopped in Nebraska and actually saw that 2-headed calf. Yeah, like it's on display at a trading post.
Oh, wow.
And, just the nature just felt already cruel and difficult, as much as like the natural imagery was very like beautiful and somewhat idyllic. There was just, again, the tension, I think, that it just keeps getting established, just kind of kept making me feel like before we even got to anything supernatural or horrible, just giving birth is difficult, and just life is difficult.
It's just work. It's hard work.
It's a lot of work.
Life is hard work.
Oh, I was thinking about how many chores that couple had between them.
Yeah, they just constantly just grinding. There was like I wouldn't want to live like that.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I
personally, think it's just me. But
it didn't look great to me. I mean, there was
they were so unhappy at the beginning too.
They really were,
and that so just that whole vibe of watching them
and that unhappiness, right? Like it isn't totally the childlessness, because so we get a third character who, when he enters the scene, we don't know what the deal is. He's like been kicked out of a car, like in the middle of nowhere. I think that was his band or something. But for all I mean, I think they let him out of a trunk and like threw him in the and something. So I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I feel like they were just really trying to lay it on that he was just stumbling out of some big trouble because he had the leather jacket on.
Yeah, they definitely made. I was just like, okay, this dude's like some kind of a ne'er-do-well. Yeah. And and I'm like, oh, he's going to wander in on this idyllic little life where this couple has made peace with this strange sheep child that they're raising as their own. And this stranger is going to come and ruin everything. Right. And that continues to the point where he's observing Maria when she fucking kills the mother sheep, she just shoots. And I wasn't sure if he saw all of that, like, or not. And he does reveal that, like, he did. Yeah. But what's insane is that, like, this isn't a stranger. It's what was his name? I wrote down Ingvar's brother, Peter.
Which is an interesting connection, how that happens, that it almost seems like he just was like, well, we threw this guy in the trunk and we'll drop you. Where do you want us to take you? You drop me off at my brother's farm. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool. I think that is kind of what happened.
That kind of is like his awkward taxi service.
Yeah, they dumped him off, and I don't know, but he was both.
Because they're like, oh, you're back again.
Right. Like, and he was such a tension creator before I knew who he was. Yeah. And then he was such a tension breaker in that scene where they invite the little lamb child out, and he the acting that dude did with his eyes.
That was honestly, I mean, he definitely had the best scenes in the film.
Oh, he was the best. Absolutely.
A number of times. We finally, I feel like, got let into someone's experience in a way.
He was representing the audience in a big
felt like
way.
that was the closest I felt to a character at that point. And there were moments like, just like the first words he says, like after they have the meal, and just his brother's just telling him hey, let me take you to your room. And he's just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. What the fuck is this?
What the fuck is going on?
No, he articulates what everybody has kind of been thinking. And and there is like a tension, right? Because like I thought, oh, this guy's coming, they're going to hide the child. They're going to have to hide the child. Again,
but they just are out and open. Like I feel like that helped him, the brother coming into the picture actually helped to sort of better contextualize, I think, how unwell Noomi Rapace is. I know I said her name wrong.
No, hey, you tried.
Noomi Rapace.
I wasn't even gonna try.
Rapace.
I was going with character names. That's all I can handle.
Yeah, Maria. Yeah, she.
Thank you.
I think she. There are obviously other moments where she seems like she's. I also struggling with her reasoning skills.
Yeah, I
but-
mean, I with the exception of the father, I think everybody made me nervous.
yeah.
Like everybody really made me nervous as like a possible threat.
Yeah.
Like because okay, while the brother was like this, we didn't know he's the brother. Oh, this is tense. And then we know he's the brother. Tension broken. Good.
Yeah.
Here's somebody we can relate to. And then tension amped up because then he's like, this is ridiculous. This is an animal. This is a child.
I mean, he like actually takes it. I mean, I really was like, oh my God.
I was clutching like at my scarf, just like he's going to shoot this little child.
God, that was so, because you just really didn't know where the story was going to go from the point of this.
And then it becomes so clear, and of course they reveal. And that's a very sweet moment when like the horrible thing doesn't happen.
And I will say it did pull focus away from the exterior threat, like with the POV shot from the beginning, like that all kind of fell away from my mind, all that eerie stuff, because suddenly it felt like it was pivoting into like a family.
I started to think about how the worst things we had seen done were done by people. And I was just starting to think about how like, the threat isn't from anything in nature.
That's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah.
It was starting to go in that direction instead. It really does go like, hey, look over here. Like,
and we really didn't know the content of his character at that point.
Yeah.
Like we knew him to be very calling it like it is, but that didn't preclude this idea that maybe.
And he's also not the most morally astute. Like he did initially think I'm going to off it, but it appeals to him. Yeah. It reminds me of that, like, the huntsman's going to kill Snow White, but just can't. She's too, she's too beautiful and kind, and he can't bring her heart back to the Wicked Queen.
I could hear women in the theater kind of awing, and people,
it's like there is a big that tension release from that when you see them.
Yeah, as far as half sheep, half human creatures go, it is a cute. I mean, it's like a little sheep in a sweater. That's like mostly what we're seeing is like a sheep in cute little kids' clothes.
I did find the one hoof, one hand thing unnerving. There was that slight, like,
that was a little
the weight, because it's not just a sheep head and a human body.
Yeah. It was a little bit more than
it was
that.
It was partially developed on its side a bit, but it had the torso left side and everything to the bottom's human.
And I think this is like where maybe the idea of horror, it's not as if it doesn't qualify, but we're really in like a folklore mythology world with this shit.
Yeah.
Like this is so, like you mentioned Greek mythology in particular, like these stories where Zeus would turn himself into a cow and then have sex with a woman, and like there's
there's a big mythological because of the bestiality for sure.
I mean, and that's another thing you mentioned, that like it had felt like that was what was being implied.
I really didn't expect there to be some of course that you're like, but the opening shot is a POV shot of whatever the ominous force is. But I
knew there was something,
but I also didn't trust that, because it really started to think like, I don't know, I really thought the husband was
responsible, was
that
the father.
He fucked the sheep and impregnated it.
Again, that should have been the first thought, again based on my like James Dickey reference and like all these other weird, and
then it's like,
I think because again it never registered on her face or anything that she was upset or betrayed. I mean, I guess you could infer that if from the moment of the birth, maybe
that was just all of what I was projecting, which is like, this is a movie that, again, just go in as cold as possible. And there is something kind of intriguing to,
but I could see how you could project that,
but like
that scene is full of so much, like,
it feels like you can throw, like, you don't quite know what the subtext is, but there's something there. And like, because there is also a scene, it's like these are small just conversations they're having like throughout their work day in the opening sequence, and then they're sitting, he's talking about like time travel is possible, and she's like, oh, so you could go back in time. Like, I was just like, ooh, passive aggressive.
As soon as she said that, they've lost a child. They make the point clearer later. They're damaged,
and my head, and I was frustrating myself. Like, this is my own fault, because I was associating her a little bit, I guess, maybe with her character from Prometheus, when she is talking about how she can't conceive, which is an interesting parallel between those two films in terms of her being a mother of a inhuman, a creature of a human hybrid thing.
Sure, yeah. Neil Brennan has like a joke about how people love to describe themselves as like, I'm a dog mom or I'm a cat dad. And he's like, that's not an adoption. Like, that's a kidnapping. That dog has a mom. It's a dog. You know, like, you're not its mom. We keep calling her kind of like the mother, but she's not. You know, she's essentially stolen a child from, I thought at first just from a sheep, you know. And then, of course, more than a sheep, there's a daddy. And like, holy fuck. I must admit, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that was...
Sheep dad.
That was... There, it was teased
a little too much,
bit. What, it was a little what?
It was almost just like a little. I mean, I can't decide if did I actually find that terrifying or not. Like, it was more scary until I saw it. You know,
it was very like scary-ish, but like also felt like it was very like anticlimactic a little bit in the reveal. You know,
I agree with that.
I don't know, but I did like how there was a lot of tension. I think that was building up for me watching them drinking in the house while the girl's wandering outside.
Yeah.
And then when she sees, and I'm my head's still thinking about this those couple scenes, because then she stops and sees
her father.
It's in the reflection in her eyes. She sees.
I didn't know what that was.
I didn't know. But I couldn't tell that's what that was. I knew it looked like some kind of creature of some kind.
It looked like fleshy. I thought it was like an ogre. I definitely thought it was anthropomorphic. It was like something man-shaped, but it was like something big and.
But did she? You think register that was her father? Or was she just afraid? Because like you don't know at that point.
No,
it is.
I think she was just afraid. Maybe I'm wrong, because does she go look in a mirror after that?
Yeah, she runs into
maybe that is.
There's like a moment of like recognition,
of kind of like, wait, what the fuck? Kind of sad, sweet that she feels loss for what she thought was her father, the guy who was actually around. You know, I mean, let's be real.
You really see it. Like the way they handled the CGI of her emotion, I feel like they did it in a way that
it's pretty heartbreaking.
Well, I think they did a good job, you know, because you're dealing with this is a tough kind of, I think, sell of getting that emotionality out with a sheep, because part of, I feel like you see sheeps and goats and stuff in movies, and certainly in The Witch, like all this close-up shots of there's sort of like there's just a very unnerving quality to the spacing and the all of that. And
you put a wide angle lens on anything.
Yeah, so there's I don't want to say that they're vacuous. If any, I mean, this movie definitely disproved that, because of just, I feel like the sheep mom was just an emotional, heartbreaking mess. That poor,
she did nothing wrong.
Mama sheep.
She did nothing wrong.
She was just so upset that they took her baby. Oh my God. And it's just sad to,
like the bleeding from outside. Like,
the bleeding, which also felt threatening, as we talked about.
Yeah. It was sad, but it also felt like this will not stand. There's something about its respect for animals in nature that I liked. Again, that felt very like mythological or folklore-ish. This felt like an old story. I don't know if it actually is based on like a specific myth. It might be, it might not. You know, even the structure of it. I mean, it had a lot of the markers of like a foreign film, and I don't mean that in like a shitty way, but it was kind of, I kind of was like thinking to myself as we were at the theater, it's like, wow, like it's encouraging to know that like we are at a point culturally where we'll go see an Icelandic movie on a Friday night, and it's kind of like a movie people are talking about. It's not just like some weird shunted off into some weird corner art house thing somewhere, you know. It's like,
no, it's cool.
It is cool.
It was cool to see something like that. I liked how unique this was, you know.
Me too.
Like we talked about it was you can't take away the fact that it was creative.
Oh, it was deeply creative. And one of those movies too that I imagine filmmakers, I'm thinking about the movie Beauty and the Beast that was made by Jean Cocteau, which is full of like wonderful special effects, but we were talking about a movie that was made in like 50 or 52. You know, when you look at this, I think what I love about this is that this is such a good use of something like CGI. It's such a good restrained mixed use of things.
Yeah, I mean, they don't overdo it with her, but you can see her heartbroken that she's being pulled away at the end from her.
It's just enough.
Yeah.
And I'm truly curious. I mean, I would love to know more about, I assume there was a child actor who probably sometimes wore like a woolly cap, you know, for like
or something.
Heads,
yeah, it's interesting. Like
I'd be curious to understand.
It'd be interesting to see how they would have shot and
I would love to
pulled
know.
that off.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting to think of. I mean, I think nowadays we tend to just be like, well, computers, and that is sadly, usually the answer. But
what I want to just make sure I get across is that, like, it's definitely worth watching. There were some fun moments. I do have a lot of questions though, and I just, for instance, what is the significance of the brother coming and going in a way? Like it does feel like there are a lot of moments where the humor is so, it seems very like intentionally like absurd and like self-aware at times. So it's like, this is a movie where I'm like, well, I feel like they made a lot of very intentional choices throughout. I mean, any movie, there's intention behind how things are cut and whatnot.
No, but it's true. I didn't think about that, but like the unraveling of this movie, it's like she's just put him on the bus to go away. So it's like, it may be months before he ever knows any of this has gone on.
Yeah.
What did he do? Like, either they have a history or he's always kind of trying to push something on her. Mm-hmm. And so like, right, when her husband gets drunk and goes to sleep, it's like, okay, they're alone together. And she ends up locking him like out of the house, to try to like head him off. I thought he was going to be killed. I thought like, sure, like, and that didn't happen either. And I was
there was a lot of just subverting of expectations.
Yeah. And I'm not mad. It's just that when she found him asleep under his jacket in the bar, I was just like, oh,
all right.
Okay. I thought for sure her playing and ignoring his screams was going to be the perfect cover for, and I guess, right, that they wanted me to think that probably.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, none of these things are unintentional. And I think this movie, if the blinder you go in, the more you'll feel the tension. But I do feel a little frustrated that there was so much tension and so little release.
Yes.
Like, and I feel a little bit blue-balled. Like, I'm just like a little...
I agree.
Like, depending on how you look at it, it's kind of a happy ending, but kind of not.
Yeah.
It's like a story of adoption or something. Like, I'm just trying to imagine like scenarios where women have had their children taken away from them and given to like other, I mean, like a Philomena kind of thing. It's like Philomena for sheep. Like
there's the biological family versus the family that raised you, and
we talked about this a little bit with Paris, Texas.
Yeah, and it's sad because there's also
like, what's that life going to be like for little Ada?
She's been raised as a human. Like, and where is she going?
I don't know.
Others?
I don't know.
Why would he be so keen on
taking her away?
And
well, I mean, I think it's like, that's mine.
Yeah,
but he does take his time. They take their time with that. I'm kind of like, wouldn't you just?
Yeah, it's interesting that
why now?
Maybe he stayed away because the brother was there. Like, that was added security that they didn't want to.
Yeah, and the timeline's a little unclear. Like, because she grows. I don't know. We see her body at one point, and it's not an infant. It's definitely like a kind of a toddler size. But just the timeline from birth to the brother's arrival, it was unclear to me how much time had passed.
Clearly, they'd been with that child for
a while.
They
had a routine, like
they left the mom alive the whole time. I thought the mom was going to get off sooner because of the bleeding, and so I thought the first time we saw her out of the window, I thought it was going to get she's going to get iced.
Much as it was kind of like unjust in a way. I mean, definitely unjust. It was just unjust. I also, though, had a little bit of like, ooh, damn, like, don't cross this bitch. You know, like, I was like, holy shit, like, this is a woman who has had loss and just won't accept another one.
Yeah.
Like, that's how that read. Yeah. And like, when you like go and like shoot a sheep between the eyes, then drag it off to bury it. Like, I mean, that's like, it felt like a mob moment.
Yeah.
M-O-B, not M-O-M.
I wonder, did the sheep man ever find her? Did he have feelings for her?
That's a good question, too. Was the sheep man coming in and fucking all the sheep?
Yeah. Is this one of those things where, like, they were cool because maybe he was... I wonder, I'm like, how long was he maybe just, like, lurking in their facility?
He's like this itinerant dad who doesn't, like...
I don't know. Like I just was wondering if maybe he was just sort of like an unbeknownst to them, like just an added roomie of theirs that was like, hey, we've got an arrangement where I don't cause problems, but I fuck these sheep. You raise the sheep, I fuck the sheep.
Yeah, like.
But did he have romantic feelings?
Or
like,
was this like a thing that, I mean, again, maybe this is part of the mythology and the folklore idea. You're supposed to just fill this in, but it's like, is this like a thing that happens once a year? Is this a thing that happens seasonally or every 20 years? Like it, I agree. There are a lot of questions, and maybe like it doesn't, you're not supposed to really, you're left to be that kind of unsettled and like, oh, what the fuck? But I agree. There was something about the reveal that was, I don't know. I feel shitty saying like it wasn't satisfying because I don't want to say, like, I didn't predict it, and it gave me a sense of like, oh, okay, this is what they've been in. This is what we've been waiting for the whole time. This is the thing that they've been in danger from the whole time. It's whenever you see the monster, it's always a little of a disappointment. Mm-hmm. Like the best movies are kind of the ones where you don't really ever.
Yeah, I wonder, like I kind of had a feeling like I thought the other sheep were going to band together and cause an uprising, and that it was going to be like allegorical in some way. Like,
man, those sheep made me nervous. It was like suddenly you're thinking about this long history of their subjugation, and it's just like there's like literally a Monty Python sketch about like clever sheep taking over the world. I mean, you can kind of buy anything if you create the right tension.
I just have so many more questions as soon as I see that guy, and it's just also too, why didn't he, like, the first time he sees the girl, why doesn't he just take her then?
That's kind of, again, that's what I wonder. It's the why now. That question is what
why was that the moment?
Why now?
After the brother left, and I wonder, is it just he just wanted to wait until that brother got out of the way? But then no, he could have sooner.
I mean, the brother does show up right after Maria shoots the mother sheep. Is this vengeance for that as well?
This is just such a Paris, Texas thing.
It is basically Paris, Texas.
These two movies, I'm just thinking, oh, look at this goat man thinking he's being a real cowboy, taking his kid back, but are you going to give it a good life? Yeah. This is a mostly human, female human
with parents who accept and love and intend to raise as best they can.
And the thing is just like, then it's like, well, are you going to get her clothes? Are you gonna give her?
Is she gonna walk around naked? Like
she's got a human digestive system. Yeah. She doesn't have the exterior. Because he was hairy. Yeah, like he was very kind of Yeti-ish a little bit. Like
he was very like sort of Sasquatchy.
Yeah, he had a little bit of the mountain man, like rough and tumble exterior.
And there's lots of different folklore stories about creatures in the woods in the dark. Like there's nothing. It's no more outlandish or ridiculous than anything else. But it's funny. It is upsetting me in the way Paris, Texas upset me. Yeah. And it is like a similar narrative of like adoption and what's more important, what's stronger. And the question of like, well, what happens now? And I wasn't, it's not like I was totally with Maria. She suffers a ton of loss.
Yeah.
And the last shot is on her.
Yeah.
And it's one of those like moments. It felt, I'll never forget when I went to go see No Country for Old Men in the theater. Yeah. Because we got to that ending, which not to be a big old pretentious nerd, but I fucking love that ending.
Yeah, it's a great ending. Oh, it's a great movie.
Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah. Like, it's poetry. But I remember seeing that movie in a theater of people like the weekend it came out, and there were audible groans. People were just like, oh, what the hell? Like, it was like, did you not know what the title of this movie was? Mm-hmm. No Country for Old Men. Think about it. For a little bit, but no one wanted to. And so I kind of like a movie that does that, like that forces, like I want people to groan. I want them to be challenged. I want them to not understand sometimes, because it's like, then it's a little more special for me because it's mine.
It just kind of ended on
her, like devastated.
But I wonder, I'm like, was she, because she seems like defeated, but it was weird because I'm like, did she already know about the existence of the mountain, like goat man thing? I'm like, did she?
The only time I wondered about that was like when she was having sex with her husband.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait a minute, what about their copulation is like flawed or fucked up, or what, is he like, in Rosemary's Baby where the devil has like his way. I mean, not his way. He rapes her. Okay. Like the devil rapes her. It's a horrifying scene.
Yeah.
I wondered, like, oh, instead of it being the husband, is she somehow, like, she's so desperate for a child, she's made some kind of weird unholy deal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. Like, I expected something weird to show up in the sex, but it didn't. I don't want to say, like, I need a sequel, because that's not really it. And if it were an American film, you know there would be one.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you suggest? What was it? Lamb 2, the college years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, she's in the human body, and it's clearly...
She's cute now.
She's got a developed like enough brain that she's like, you know, able to like.
She understands English. Well, not English, but Icelandic.
Yeah, she understands
Speech.
how like speech, and like she's not talking though.
She's not talking. She whimpers a little bit.
She whimpers, but she doesn't really talk. So we don't know if we don't ever really get a confirmation of whether she can speak or only bleat, because she does bleat as a little like, and it's like, so are her vocal cords.
Yeah,
what's the situation there?
It wasn't clear where the human and the, you know, the mind and the
is
voice.
it just that she just has the physical features? Because yeah, definitely she's got a human brain. She's like
miserable.
God knows what's going to be happening to her.
Yeah.
Being
how much sentience does she have?
I guess,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, clearly enough, because she felt emotion. We saw her emotion be expressive.
She didn't want to be taken away from her father, but she also, that was also sadly, and I feel like very like poetic, dramatic. I don't know what.
Yeah.
It's the hoof part that he can't possibly hold her by. I feel like it's representing how there is that fundamental divide between them. Like they can't grasp hands. Like
because it's never gonna.
This was doomed to fail almost, kind beginning. Of that moment of like, of course you were never fully going to be capable of like, no. Like.
But I think as in the audience, we did believe that they were, because they were so willing, they were so accepting, and so they were giving her so much love that I think like a part of the audience had this like kind of like, oh, they're gonna make it, like, and once the brother kind of like wraps his head around it,
and
like,
there are the lighthearted moments of this movie, these moments of
and every time there was something lighthearted, I was like, don't get too lighthearted, because
yeah, exactly,
then something
that was definitely turning it in bouts of tension. That I
mean, like they're watching a handball game, which by the way, I didn't know handball was so popular.
I didn't know either, but they were really getting into it.
They were really into it.
Yeah.
I assumed it was soccer because it was Europe, you know. But yeah, I remember there was a moment where, and this, some of this is just seeing too many movies and again being all tense. But there was like a moment where he's like, they find an old VHS tape of the brother from his band in the early days. And it's a very light moment, but he's like dancing in front of the window, and I just kept waiting for something to crash through that window, and like, which is ridiculous. Like that shouldn't. But this movie had this way
it has that feeling. It's so unnerving the whole time.
Yeah, because you're aware that there's this threat.
And there is ominous music that comes through intermittently that it wants to remind you to not get too comfortable.
Yeah.
Or like there was a really, it seemed like a pretty, I don't remember specifically the scene, but I just remember that it was a very good emotional scene, and then it just cut to the dead dog.
Yeah.
Spoiler, by the way, the dog gets maimed.
There's a dog,
and it just cuts to that, and then cuts back to Maria. And I feel like it was the movie trying to remind you, like, no, you should be
concerned.
Yeah. And
you're
back
not,
to this.
You're not allowed to relax at any moment.
Yeah.
Even in the moments when they're relaxed.
There were these spontaneous cutaways and shots that this movie did that I enjoyed, that I feel like added context and certainly elevated the tension and
and I mean, it's established almost immediately, but the isolation, like how far they are. I mean, it's like a protective element. I mean, it ends up not being. I mean, but I didn't worry for their safety in a sense of like, because they were all alone. It was more like, it felt like nothing could, even if they were in a village, I feel like they would have had this problem. You know what I mean? But it's like the isolation makes it seem possible for them to raise this strange child.
Yeah.
Like you're like, well, maybe it would be possible in rural Iceland where they're pretty self-sufficient. And I felt a false sense, I think, of security, even though there was this kind of like natural beastly threat. I both felt concerned for them and felt like, right, nature can't be subverted here. It will win.
Yeah.
The end credits, they used the theme music from Barry Lyndon. And it was like, oh, wow, this was kind of similar to that movie in a lot of weird ways.
Yeah.
Like tonally and the loss of a child, and
Yeah, I think, and both stories seem to be about a bit of hubris. Like it feels like they were both ambitious characters in a sense, if we're looking from the perspective of the mother of Maria in this movie, and then of Barry Lyndon, and just it's like the idea of them, they're sympathetic characters to a degree, but then they're also but
they're committing certain violations themselves, and
they're overextending themselves, so to speak, and then
bit.
it's this it is their undoing.
Well, so did we like it or not?
I think it's worth a watch. I don't know
I'll probably
when
never,
I will revisit it.
Probably
though.
never gonna watch it again.
I think at some point I'll probably I would casually put it on, and then there are definitely moments I would say where this would be worth a rewatch if you want to kind of go back and just kind of recontextualize knowing what you know.
I think that you might be right. I might actually watch it a second time, like whenever this shit streams somewhere. Because I do think knowing how it ends and knowing where it goes, maybe there's a whole lot of shit I just wasn't picking up. And also, I think I could watch it without being tense for every fucking moment.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there were just things that I missed that went under the radar for me because maybe I was looking too closely.
Oh yeah, no. Sometimes your antennas
maybe that's
up
what this movie is. What is this? Does this mean something?
And I mean,
is this gonna mean something?
When they showed that little human body with the lamp, for the first time, I mean, there was definitely a reaction in the theater. I mean, it was definitely
there
was a what the fuck?
Yeah,
it's just So yeah, it got some gut reactions, but don't well, I mean, if you've listened this far, it means that you have seen the movie or you don't give a fuck about our warnings.
Spoilers.
So don't get mad.
Don't get
mad. Don't get mad at us. This was intense. Lambs are cute. I don't know what a teen sheep is gonna look like.
Yeah, I just think we gotta think about the implications here,
I felt
it was more.
I felt sad.
I felt sad for her. She was kind of being taken away from that.
She was uprooted from what was starting to be her life.
Yeah,
and that felt shitty. Really felt shitty. Didn't seem like a kind father coming to get her either.
Yeah, it was. I felt bad and feared for her. Like, what is he taking? Like, you're gonna, like I said, what are you gonna do for her?
Right.
What good is this?
Yeah. Reykjavik, Texas.
Thank you for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter at Fresh Movie Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at A Breath of Fresh Movie, or you can email us. We actually prefer that at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com.